Where?
Oh yeah. This is a prank, I know.
Go! Go! I just saw him. Go! Don't fall! Don't fall up the stairs! Oh shit! Get your flashlight, hurry!
What if the veil between our world and the unknown isn't as impenetrable as we'd like to believe? What if unseen forces and mysterious entities coexist with us, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves? Tonight, we delve into chilling encounters that defy explanation, exploring the thin line between the natural and the supernatural. These are the stories of those who encountered the unimaginable stories that will make you question everything you thought you knew about the world. The Haunted Manor, a paranormal investigation gone wrong. Our first story takes us to the early hours of August 14th, 2022, when a paranormal investigation by the YouTube channel Nerve Paranormal turned into a nightmarish encounter. This wasn't their first visit to the ominous Oaks and Hares Manor, an abandoned estate steeped in eerie tales. The manor had been rumored to be haunted for decades, with reports of strange sounds, shadowy figures, and inexplicable occurrences. Armed with new cutting-edge equipment, the team hoped to document the paranormal. Like never before, the manor stood before them, a crumbling monument to forgotten times. The vines had overgrown the windows, and the wooden door creaked on its hinges as they pushed it open. Inside, the air grew thick with unease. The walls, coated in dust, seemed to whisper secrets of a bygone era. The atmosphere was heavy, as though the very structure of the house was alive with memories that refused to die. While setting up a spirit box session, the investigators sought communication with the unknown. The first response crackled through the static, sending shivers down their spines. But the night's terror escalated when furniture began to move on its own. Chairs toppled, doors slammed, and whispers filled the air. Suddenly, the door to the attic creaked open on its own. The team, hearts racing, climbed the stairs, only to be met by a cold gust of wind. As they reached the attic, they found a dusty old chest in the center of the room. It seemed to beckon them, as if daring them to open it. When they did, a shrill laugh echoed through the room, and the chest violently slammed shut. Panic set in. The investigators tried to leave, but the front door wouldn't open. It was as though the manor itself was keeping them trapped. They tried climbing out of a window, but as soon as they reached the ledge, a shadow passed swiftly in front of them, blocking their escape. It was a dark, tall figure, its face obscured, and its body seemed to flicker like a shadow in the dim light. They screamed in panic, retreating back into the house. As they climbed to the roof in a desperate bid to escape, they realized the poltergeist wasn't merely haunting, it was hunting them. By morning, the team had escaped, but their footage captured a chilling reality. The poltergeist was growing stronger with every fearful visitor.
Come on down here with me. Come here. Guys, come here. Guys.
The Haunting of Hummel Park. In October 2014, a group of adventurous friends decided to visit Hummel Park in Nebraska, a place infamous for its chilling reputation as a haunted burial ground. Stories of ghostly apparitions, inexplicable sounds, and tragic past events had long shrouded the park in mystery, making it a magnet for thrill seekers. For years, locals spoke in hushed tones about the park's cursed history, claiming it was a hotspot for sinister rituals and paranormal activity. Drawn by curiosity and the thrill of the unknown, the group thought it would be the perfect destination for a night of exploration and amateur investigation. As they stepped onto the park's grounds, they were greeted by an unsettling sight. 3 flickering candles arranged in a triangle around what appeared to be a blood-stained shirt, eerily abandoned, with no sign of its owner. The flickering light cast long, distorted shadows that seemed to dance ominously on the surrounding trees. A foul stench hung heavily in the air, the kind that clings to the back of the throat, making it hard to breathe. The wind was unnaturally still, yet a faint, almost inaudible whisper seemed to float through the air, an ethereal sound that sent chills down their spines. As they ventured deeper into the dense woods, an unshakable tension began to build among the group. The air grew oppressively thick, each breath feeling like an effort, and the sensation of being watched became almost unbearable. Every crunch of leaves beneath their feet sounded amplified, echoing ominously through the quiet forest. Then, without warning, the leaves around them began to rustle as if disturbed by an unseen force, even though the trees above were eerily still. One of the friends suddenly froze, pointing towards a large tree in the distance. There was movement, subtle but undeniable. At first, they assumed it was a small animal, or perhaps another person wandering the park. But as they focused their flashlight beams, a pale, ghastly face emerged from the shadows. Its features were distorted, with hollow eyes that glowed faintly, radiating a chilling sense of hunger and malice.
This is a prank, I know.
Go, go. I just saw him. Go. Don't fall up the stairs.
The figure didn't move, but its piercing gaze locked onto them, freezing the group in terror. Panic surged through their bodies, breaking the spell of paralysis. Without exchanging words, they bolted back towards the direction of their car, their footsteps frantic and their breaths ragged with fear. The forest seemed to close in around them, and every shadow appeared alive, watching their desperate escape. When they finally reached the safety of their vehicle, they slammed the door shut and sped off, hearts pounding as adrenaline coursed through their veins. As the car raced down the dark, empty road, silence filled the cabin, but the haunting image of the figure lingered vividly in their minds. None of them could shake the feeling that they had been in the presence of something beyond human comprehension, something malevolent. What they had encountered that night remained a mystery, but one thing was clear: Hummel Park had lived up to its dark and foreboding reputation, leaving them with an experience they would never forget. The Figures in the Night. Fast forward to August 4th, 2017. A man was driving alone on a deserted highway late at night, a stretch of road so quiet and isolated that it sent chills down his spine. The silence was deafening, broken only by the hum of his car engine and the faint rustling of the wind. The moon hung low in the sky, its pale glow casting eerie, elongated shadows across the empty road. It was the kind of night that made him feel as though he wasn't alone, as if unseen eyes were watching him from the darkness just beyond his headlights. As he drove, his unease grew stronger. Suddenly, out of the thick shadows, two ghostly figures appeared at the edge of the road. One stood perfectly still, staring at him with hollow, empty eyes, its face pale and emotionless. The other figure moved in a strange, unnatural way, gliding slowly along the roadside, its movements deliberate and almost robotic. The man's breath caught in his throat as he slammed on his brakes in panic. His tires screeched against the asphalt, and his car came to an abrupt stop. The headlights illuminated the figures in stark, bright light, making their eerie forms even more haunting. For a moment, time seemed to stand still, as the man struggled to comprehend what he was seeing. Then, just as suddenly as they had appeared, the figures vanished. 1 second they were there, and the next, the road ahead was completely empty, as if they had dissolved into thin air. Terrified and confused, the man's hands trembled on the steering wheel. He glanced nervously at his rearview mirror, half expecting to see the figures reappear behind him, but there was nothing. The highway stretched on, silent and undisturbed. When he finally reviewed his dashcam footage later, he found no evidence of the figures. There was no trace of anything unusual, just an empty road, as if nothing had happened at all. Was it a trick of the light, a product of his own imagination, or something truly supernatural? The man was left with endless questions and no answers. That brief, chilling encounter would stay with him for the rest of his life, a haunting reminder of the strange and unexplainable things that can happen in the dead of night. The office apparition, a shadow in the night. The third story dates back to March the 29th, 2017. A late-night worker, alone in his office, dozed off at his desk. The building was completely empty, and the only sound was the hum of the air conditioner. His colleagues had long gone home, and the silence was almost oppressive. He awoke, disoriented, only to find himself staring at an unnatural sight. A black shadow floated above him, its form indistinct, as if it were a mass of shifting darkness. His heart skipped a beat as the shadow seemed to move closer, creeping toward him in an almost predatory fashion. Suddenly, as if on cue, objects around him started moving: a spinning red chair, papers falling from his desk, the faint sound of whispering just beyond the edge of his hearing. Startled, he dismissed the incidents as mere coincidences, telling himself that it was just the building settling. But moments later, a nearby chair crashed loudly to the floor, sending a jolt of terror through him. The office grew colder, heavier. A sense of dread clung to the air, like an invisible hand gripping his throat. The lights flickered, and the temperature dropped even further. The worker's heart raced, but his legs felt like lead, unable to move. The feeling of being watched intensified, until it became unbearable. Terrified, he fled, convinced something malevolent lurked unseen. The door that moved, a haunting at home. Now, let's take you back even further, to July 12, 2009. A man filming in his own home captured an unsettling phenomenon. He had just finished a long day of work and was unwinding with some late-night footage for a personal project. It was supposed to be a peaceful evening, but as he set up his camera, a door, seemingly untouched, closed on its own. It moved slowly at first, then slammed shut with unnerving force. The sound echoed through the house, reverberating off the walls as if something unseen had slammed it shut. The man, confused and frightened, jumped up to check for any cause. There was no wind, no drafts, no movement anywhere in the house. He examined the door, looking for strings or mechanisms, anything that could explain the phenomenon. But nothing made sense. In disbelief, he begged whatever entity might be there to move it again. To his astonishment, the door obeyed, slamming shut once more, this time even harder than before. The man carefully examined the area, showing viewers every angle to prove there were no strings, no hidden mechanisms, nothing that could have caused the door to move. The repeated movements convinced even the most hardened skeptics. This wasn't a prank, but a genuine supernatural encounter. The air in the room grew thick, and a feeling of dread descended over him. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. A fiery encounter. On August 14, 2022, the YouTube channel Dark Life decided to investigate a dark and creepy basement for signs of paranormal activity. The basement had once been used to store old furniture and antiques, but over time, it had been abandoned and left to decay. Dust covered everything. The air smelled damp and musty, and their flashlights barely lit the space. The atmosphere was eerie, making the team uneasy from the start. As they began their investigation, strange things started happening. Their equipment, which had been fully charged earlier, stopped working. The batteries drained quickly, and their flashlights flickered on and off. Still, the team decided to keep going, hoping to find something unusual. During a session with their EVP, electronic voice phenomena device, they asked questions to try to communicate with any spirits in the basement. Out of nowhere, a chilling voice whispered the word basement. Everyone froze, their fear growing as they looked around nervously. The voice was faint but clear, leaving no doubt that they had heard something unnatural. Despite being scared, they decided to continue exploring. Moments later, they noticed a shadowy figure slowly emerging from the darkness. It blended with the shadows around it, but they could tell it was moving closer to them. The team began to panic, unsure of what to do. Before they could react, their EVP device suddenly sparked and burst into flames. The fire lit up the room for a brief second, and the team didn't wait to see what would happen next. They ran out of the basement as fast as they could, leaving behind their equipment and unanswered questions. This experience left the investigators shaken and confused. Was the shadow a ghost, or was it something else entirely? The team shared their story and footage on their channel, but viewers are still debating whether the fiery encounter was paranormal or just a strange coincidence. The Forest Witch, a gaze that haunts. Finally, we journey to February 14, 2022, when a man found himself stranded on a lonely forest road. His car had broken down miles from the nearest town, and he was forced to wait for a tow truck in the freezing cold. Out of nowhere, a witch-like figure appeared. Her long, disheveled hair whipped in the wind, and her piercing gaze locked him in place. The man felt an overwhelming sense of dread as her eyes seemed to burn into his soul. As his car engine sputtered and died, he felt a crushing weight in the air. No matter how hard he tried, the car wouldn't move. The figure remained still, her presence suffocating. Just as despair took hold, the car roared back to life, allowing him to escape. But even as he drove away, her image lingered in his mind, an indelible mark of terror that would haunt him for years to come. Each of these stories serves as a stark reminder that the world is full of mysteries we may never unravel. Are these encounters the result of overactive imaginations, or do they point to a darker truth? Forces beyond our comprehension lurking in the shadows? The truth may never be known, but the chilling evidence left behind suggests that we are not as alone as we think. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and keep your eyes open for the unseen.